Thank you all for checking out this week's episode. Once again, I'm John. If you like what you heard and saw today, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and check out our brand new merch store with hats, coffee mugs, t-shirts, other cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Again, thank you all for support. Be safe, and see you next week. How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spear Talk. And today we get to welcome Brett Big Swag Wagner to the show. If you're familiar with Brett, he is the voice of Monster Garage on Discovery Channel and the host of Pastime on the Speed Channel. He's also can be seen as the Lost Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 edition with Jessica Biel, and as in one of my favorite horror movies that came out in the 2000s as Jesse the Hunter in the Crazies with Timmy Oliphant. You can also be seen in some other genre films and TV shows such as Sons of Anarchy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Angel. John Dies at the End, and Chrome Skull 2. So
Hannah Montana. Let's not forget all that good Hannah Montana stuff.
It's it's great to have you on here, Brett. And I know it's kind of crazy now. And before we kind of get into like the minutia of your life and career, with everything going on with like the SAG strike, and I've talked about this with a couple of the guests I've recorded with recently, specifically in your world when it comes to acting and TV shows and everything like that. Like, what are your thoughts on everything going on right now? It's like, where do you see the end game, where this is going?
Well, I mean, we do get paid pretty good as actors and as writers get paid pretty good, but there becomes a point when, the producers are, especially with the AI, trying to start using the artificial intelligence for, they can take our faces. Writing is amazing how they can. I've watched a program where you can, let me get that off here. I've watched a program where you can give it a couple words, and in a matter of minutes, there's like 10 pages written on the stuff you done. I was like, wow, that's a little scary, because then no one's going to get paid, no one's going to get any residuals. And a lot of people that are actors, I've been doing this for 30 years. I need those residuals to whether it's get my health insurance, and I've worked hard to get all. I've done over 100 TV films and, TV and film over 30 years, which all that stuff adds up to some residuals. And if they want to take that kind of stuff away from folks and just use artificial intelligence, it's going to really screw up our business. And, producers do really well. So, and all the producers and the studios and all that, they got to figure it out, and they got to be fair. And that's why a lot of us go, and we still are doing the marching. I try to do a day or two a week if I'm home, and it shows a lot of solidarity right now. So yeah, hopefully it's getting fixed. The directors got their deal done really quick, and hopefully the writers are going to be next. And then hopefully we get to us actors, because a lot of these people are clamoring and getting a little angry that their new shows are not on and their old shows. And it's not just us actors and writers, it's the grips, the electricians, the caterers. My wife does payroll. She has no job right now because she does payroll for one of the big studios, and it affects so many different people, the hotels, the stores, the tourism in Hollywood. Everything. It affects so much when we go on strike, and hopefully it'll get fixed shortly. Fingers crossed.
I recently came across this YouTube channel that will take the AI created Johnny Cash's voice to sing to current songs. And for someone like you with prolific, whether it's voice acting or being an announcer, your voice, it is kind of disheartening that one day they could be like, oh, he's already done all this. We'll just mimic his voice. And it is very scary how the AI is kind of taking over not only the creative aspect, but the actual physical aspect of doing what you guys and girls do.
Yeah, and you would never know, right? You're
Right.
not going to know that sitting at home. So, look, the end game with the folks that sitting at home is they want to be entertained. They don't know that that's a computer doing it. They don't know that's someone that just typed in a few things, and now here's Johnny Cash singing, Lady Gaga and all that good stuff. So it's tough, and hopefully it's got to get fixed. You just can't. There's some things AI can do, but when it comes down to it, it's going to be. You need that human interaction. You need that actor there. You need that guy that's or a woman that's doing the writing, because I mean, it's not foolproof, right? So they
Right.
may think it is, but you definitely need that human aspect to it to make it come across better. So yeah, it's scary, but a lot of good people a lot of good people are on the case, and you can see every week a lot of good people are out there, marching, and
Yeah.
it's nice to see the solidarity with everybody, because I mean I've been doing this 30 years, maybe a little longer, and had a few strikes, but nothing that's this important right now. So
It also seems crazy too, coming out of the pandemic where stuff was shut down for 18 months to 2 years already. And then you have this kind of resurgence with all these films coming out, and all of a sudden people, I mean, the other day I was like, oh, I went to go see Barbie and Oppenheimer and Meg 2, like all these movies. I love the cinema, but then you realize in 6 months, you're going to be catching up and watching everything that's already been done. That was to be a lag, and there's no layover. It's just a weird, it's so fascinating. It's just,
yeah, it's coming out of COVID, all the producers, I mean, they were scrambling, they were shooting so
oh,
much, and they were right before COVID too. People were cramming stuff in because they knew that COVID was going to be it could be a long time. So the studios were just scrambling to shoot as much as they could, and then they got a lot of stuff in, and COVID hit, and we were, everybody was out of work a year and a half and whatnot, when there was nothing new except what they had in the can. And it's amazing to me that they would take the chance now and let this strike keep going while there's nothing being shot. Now there are some independent stuff that's being shot that's under this SAG interim deal, which is good. So at least some people can get working, and there is some new stuff going on. But yeah, the majority, 95% of everything is shut down. So I mean, how long can you wait?
right.
How long? And the longer you wait, the more backlash is going to come from the actors, the crew, and everything like that, and then also the public. So, our president Fran is doing her best as far as for acting, and I know the folks on the writer side are doing their best, and it's got to end pretty soon. I mean, it's we're going into our savings, and I'm lucky enough that I can travel around doing some conventions from a lot of the horror movies and stuff that I've been in, but that only pays so much. So
I was going to ask you, just, I know our mutual friend Lee Waddell, you guys just were together. And when it comes to conventions, that doesn't happen. You're still allowed to do that, right? Like any actor can still do a convention without being tied to or offending the guild, correct?
yes, we're allowed to do that. They've already come out and said we can do it. So thank goodness.
Right.
The convention circuit is huge and alive and running well, and Lee will tell you that. But I mean, there's certain things we have to do. They don't want us talking about new projects and whatnot, which is fine. And there's other little safeguards we need to do. But thank goodness they allow that to happen, because there would be a lot of people that would be in
God.
really, really deep trouble. I mean, you look at it this way: there's guys that aren't acting, and women that are not acting, haven't acted in 40 years. But 40 years ago, they were in a good movie that was a scary movie or just a cult classic. And by that, they can make a living doing 4 or 5 or 6 shows a year, going to these conventions, and, as Lee says, kissing posters and signing babies, which is his great one-liner, which I love and I try to steal. But that's how these people
Yeah.
make their money. There's no, they could be 75 years old. They're not acting
Yeah.
anymore, which they could be, but they're just, there's something they did 40, 50 years ago, and they can still make a dollar on it. And so thank goodness for the conventions that we're allowed to do, because then there would have been, gosh, that just would have been another, almost nail in the coffin right there for some folks.
Is it weird for you to be at a convention and someone reacts to a, maybe whether a TV show role or a movie role, or even the stuff you do for like the car shows and stuff, where you're kind of blown away, like your impact, the positive impact you've had on someone's life? Because I mean, I watched the Crazies and I love that movie. I think I saw it 5 times in the theater. I love your character. It's just that for me, I'm just, I don't know. Like, I love the movie, but I don't have that connection to that maybe character per se. I love your role that, but when I watch, say like Exorcist or the first Freddy or Jason or whatever, when I see those actors talk, I'm so enthralled by them because it's like I just have that connection with them. Is it weird for you
Yeah.
kind of dealing with that where it's like, holy shit, like I had no idea this one episode I did on Monster Garage saved this person's life. Like, it's got to be crazy.
I mean, sometimes it's flattering. I mean, you get a lot of, you know, a lot of people, Monster Garage was a good example. I mean, a lot of people grew up on my voice because I was the voice of that show with Jesse James. Jesse James up front as the host, and he was great. And here I am, the voice of the show. I mean, we had a producer, Tom Beers, THOM. Tom Beers has created everything: Monster Garage, Deadliest Catch, Ice Road Truckers. I mean, all this cool
Discovery Channel staple. Yeah.
Yeah, for God's sake. So I got lucky enough that I did a Discovery Channel show called Wrestling School with John Cena, Samoa Joe, myself, and a bunch of up and coming guys in the business. And I stayed his friend, Tom's friend, because this guy was an incredible producer, and I knew eventually something would kick off. And he got me that show with Monster Garage, and within a year, that's when I first started gauging how popular my voice or my character was. Right, I'd call car shows and bike shows and says, "Hey, I want to come make an appearance at your show." And they go, who's the big swag? And I said, well, ask your kid. Does your kid watch Monster Garage? I don't know. Let me go ask him. Oh, the big swag. Yeah, my kid said he loves you. That's just a voice. That has nothing to do with, just imagine, I know I've seen how popular Jesse James is and all the stuff he does, but I got a tiny little piece of that over 6-7 years of doing the show, being the voice of it. So it started opening doors for me, on I shouldn't say convention circuit, but the car show circuit, the motorcycle shows. And I got to, I learned how to MC. I can go up in front of 200,000 people or 100,000 people in Sturgis and BS and introduce bands and do that kind of stuff. Or I could go to a small VFW hall on a Friday night and do a little MCing for a pro wrestling show. So yeah, sometimes it's great. People will say, I grew up on your voice, and that's always an honor, and it's awesome. But or if someone comes up and says, gosh, you were on Hannah Montana, my favorite show growing up. And then I asked that 80-year-old guy what the hell he was doing watching Hannah Montana. But yeah, it's flattering sometimes, but it's part of the business. I don't look at it as being like a celebrity or anything. It's my job. I didn't really learn anything else besides I used to do bodyguard work for bands, and I worked every club and nightclub in LA since I was 17 years old, throwing people out of bars and then going on the road with bands. And I mean, that's what I did for a living, and trying to become an actor and trying to get acting work during the day, and working the weekends on the road and working the bars and clubs at night. So I had my days free to audition. So, I've had some success, I guess, in the scheme of things over 30 years, but I just look at it that's my job. If I sign an autograph and get to take a picture with someone, it's very cool, but it's not being a celebrity. It's just, that's what I do. So
yeah. What led to you to have like that career kind of evolve with vehicles and stuff, like whether characters you play or even obviously your voice work and hosting work? Was there a part of your life growing up with your family and stuff where you're just surrounded by cars? Like, how do you kind of fall into that?
Well, it definitely was from Monster Garage. I mean, I loved cars growing up. My dad, and I love drag racing too. My dad would take me to the Winter Nationals. When I was very, 10, 11, 12 years old, we'd go out to Pomona and watch the big drag race events. My dad was a stockbroker, and one of his clients was a big race car builder. So we got to go every year, and you're sitting on the track and you're going, wow, this is crazy. And then flash forward, 30 years later, I'm hosting a drag racing show, very popular show on Speed Channel. And my father had unfortunately passed away, but I was at that point where I was like, oh my God, I could call up any track in America and say, hey, Dad, you want to fly? You want to go to this race this weekend? Because dang it, I could use a little bit of my star power just to be able to go do that. But yeah, Monster Garage opened all those doors, and then I would make those phone calls. And one time, Rich Christensen, who hosted Pink's All Out and was a staple on Speed Channel, said, I'm going to give you a show one of these days. I really like you. And sure enough, I got that show Pastime. So I kind of got off, off the acting track and was doing that for 5 or 6 years, and it was very fun. I didn't know much about drag racing except I liked it.
Yeah, love
But
watching
then
it.
hosting the show, I just have to be able to BS, right? I got to know a little bit about it and just be able to guide a show, just like we're doing right now, right?
Right.
You're guiding me through the show, asking questions. That's all I had to do for the TV show, and be a little funny and poke fun at my diabetic self and that I drove a Honda Element. So, I got very lucky, but I look at it as I'm an entertainer, right? Same with, we have other jobs we've done, but I get out there and entertain. I'm not just an actor. I've done radio shows. I have a podcast myself. I'm the voice of a lawnmower company for 21 years, Bad Boy Mowers.
Yeah.
And you just got to do everything. I mean, if you want to, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I don't know how to do much of anything else except BS and talk. And that's what I do. So you better, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as it pertains to Monster Garage, as the seasons go on and everyone's watching it, right? How much control, like, how's the writing process between what you say in the show? Like, obviously, do you have an idea of how that episode's going to go? Who writes that for you, and how much leeway do you have to add your your voice to that writing?
So when Tom Beers hired me, he said, "I want your big swag, my pro wrestling deal," because that was my character in pro wrestling. The big swag, the very loud, abrasive heel manager like a Bobby the Brand Heenan or Jimmy Hart. And so when we got that, the first couple of episodes, like first 5, we had to sit there and the show would be, and I had this guy, Frankie Whiteside, and we had to listen to it and kind of come up with blah, and then rewind, and then blah, and then rewind. And after the 3rd or 4th episode, the producers just started writing what they wanted. I would be in a studio, I'd be in the sound, booth, and I'd have my producer there, maybe the guy who wrote it, and we'd go over it, and I would, do it their way. Then they would say, "All right, give me swag it up a little bit," and I would. So they were very kind to me and let me, throw in my own 2 cents or throw in as long as I, did a run through on it with what they wanted said, and then I could swag it up a little bit. But pretty soon, Tom McMahon, one of our producers, who passed away recently, he was really, really big and instrumental in my life for letting me kind of be the big swag and kind of he would say, "Just go do here's the script and let's go." And he would tell me no, or yes, that's great, or, "Oh, I liked how you added that." So he really helped me out. And so did Tom Beers. They let me explore what I wanted to do and come up with this crazy character and do a little bit more. And then, we did some more episodes. We had a 14-year layoff and just did some more episodes 2 years ago, I think. Did about 9 new episodes, and there was no more Tom Beers for it. So I had to audition for my old job back, and I said, I took it, the Discovery didn't know if they wanted me to do it anymore, but Jesse said, "Oh, well, if we can't, Schwag's not doing it, then what's, it's not going to be the same." But I got to do the Tom's voice as well, right? So I got to be, I had to be a little mellow. I was very nervous about, because it's much easier being a loud, aggressive guy than trying to be just a normal, very mellow, "Hey, this is what's going on" kind of guy. So I auditioned for it. The Discovery liked it, so I got to do the 8 or 9 new episodes, and I got to be the voice of the whole show, which was a good experience for me. But I just think as an entertainer, you got to do everything, and you throw everything up against the wall, and hopefully something sticks. And I've always been one that you just never say no, and you just say, "Sure, let me try it. Let's go. What's the worst that can happen? You can embarrass yourself, or you might learn something cool." Like, I never thought I'd do podcasts, and I do a podcast called "Shooting the Shiz" with DK and the Swag with my buddy John Henderson, and we cover the conventions and new horror movies and directors and up and coming talent and stuff like that, which is great. It gives but it's fun to do, and we don't need much setup. You say, "Hey, I'm going to interview the big man Spear Talk this weekend," and we just go for it. You just take a shot, you go for it, and you don't have to have any expectations. But never say no is how I was raised. So I just try to do everything once or at least once.
I think for me, and I know I speak for a lot of people I'm friends with, like when you watch a show like Monster Garage or something like that, if the voiceover, the guy that a girl is doing that, it like just makes the show much better. And when I had Robert Clotworthy on the Spirit Talk, the voice of Ancient Aliens and Curse of Oak Island, another voice I grew up with and I got older, I still listen to when you hear his voice. It's like that show wouldn't be the same without someone like him or you doing what you did. And what I found interesting with him, I'm going to ask you the same question. How how do you protect your voice? Like, is there a certain way insurance works with your voice, or like especially when you're filming, like how much value you put behind it, or you just go day-to-day life and just be like, hey, my voice is my voice?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. One time, my commercial agent called me up and said, "Hey, they're looking for someone who sounds like the voice of Monster Garage." And I'm like, "Well, can you call him and tell him that we can give him the voice of Monster Garage?" I went in, did the audition, still didn't get it. So I was like, "Wait a minute, they want me, and I still didn't get this gig." But I mean, you just as I've gotten older. And when we were filming Pastime, I mean, I'm doing 11 shows. We used to do 11 episodes in 2 days at a track.
Yes.
So I do about the first show. We would do the first show. It'd take me about an hour and 20 minutes to make sure everything, get warmed up. And then if we were moving and grooving and there was no oil downs on the track or no accidents, I could do about a 50-minute show. And then you take a 10-minute break. But after the third season, my voice would start to go. So you had to, every episode, honey and tea, and there's ways to protect your voice a little bit, but as you just can't yell at 55. I can't yell like I did at 35. So, yeah, there's no, some of the big guys that do make, a lot of good money doing voiceovers, as your friend, who's the voice of a bunch of different characters on TV and cartoons and whatnot. Those guys, they get it made. They probably do have insurance on their voice. They probably do carry a little insurance just to make sure that if something ever happens to their voice. Those are the guys that will get picked up in a limo and brought to a studio.
Yeah.
Do the thing. They may take them to lunch afterwards and then return them home in the limo. That's a good living. That's a great, I mean, I've never experienced that. However, there's still time. I audition. I have a great,
Agent.
I'm blessed to have a very good voiceover agent. So I audition for everything. Disney, I mean, I audition for Marvel, a lot of cartoons, a lot of stuff. It just never has that my voice just has not hit one of those yet. But
and I wonder if it's because people so know what your voice is from that world of Monster Garage or like on the shows like that, where you're kind of like, well, we like it, but is it possible that some people might get distracted, that people would be like they're only hearing you as Big Schwag on Monster Garage? Is that like possible?
I mean, it's possible. It's absolutely possible. But usually with the cartoons and with the big animated movies, they have no idea. And there's high turnover on stuff like that as far as agents and whatnot and people that are at work at the studio. So it's just you just got to keep doing it, and you hope one of them will hit. I had a friend of mine who was the voice of Hyundai for 9 years. Now, just imagine, that's national commercials all the time. That's doing the little regionals,
Super Bowls, everything.
Each week, right? You have to. How many Hyundai dealerships are there? Let's say there's thousands. So each week, you might be doing 50 commercials a week doing voiceovers. That stuff, when I first started wanting to be an actor, I said, I just want to do acting. I want to do movies and TV. Who wants to do a commercial? Until I did a first big commercial one time and I made like 150 grand on it. And I was like, I just want to do commercials. That's all I want to do. Who wants to be in a movie when I can be a character on a commercial and make $150,000 for one day's work, over a year, but that stuff doesn't happen all the time. That's why I say you've got to try everything. And hopefully someone listens to your voice, or they see you and they hire you for a commercial, or they hire you for a series to be a series regular or reoccurring on stuff like that. I mean, you got to stay in the game. It's tough. A lot of people can't have stayed in the game as long as I have. So I just been blessed to have done it for 30 years so far, and just keep trying to reinvent myself and figure out what the next big thing will be.
Whether it comes to voice acting or physically being in front of the camera acting, do you mentally prepare the same way? Like, or is there a certain thing you do one the way or the other where you're kind of like,
No. I mean, now TV and film's totally different. That takes a little bit more preparation. I mean, I have a movie I'm hopefully going to do when the strike is over, and hopefully December. And usually when I'm playing a bad guy or a thug or whatever it is, light go back on. Well, is that all right? Do I look all right? My light went up.
Yeah, you look good.
When you so I have so much dialogue in this script. I'm on like 65 pages out of 95. That you start to panic a little bit. I got to go over these scenes when I'm flying around on the weekends. I sit in my hotel and I just go over the script. So that's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of digging into that character. Voiceovers, it's for me, it's pretty simple. It's okay. I know what they want. Especially with the bad boy Moors or whatnot, they'll say, give me medium swag, give me heavy swag, give me light swag, so I know what to do and what not to. And on auditions, if I'm auditioning for a cartoon, it's not a big deal. I just kind of get it in my head how he's going to sound. And then I'll go and I'll go to my buddy's studio in Burbank and I'll bang it out real quick. And hopefully they like it. So voiceover stuff, a lot more simpler, in my opinion, than preparing for a TV show or a movie, especially if you're going to be physical in that TV show. I mean, I'm 55 years old. I still will do some of my own stunts as long as it's not too much.
Right, I hear you. Obviously your connection with the horror industry, the horror world, with the conventions and stuff, is it because of your size, your voice, your look that it's easier for you to jump into that world because it's more believable? Or is obviously some of your roles and stuff, like besides Leatherface, like you're behind obviously the mask and stuff, but is it easier for you to play? Like, what's funner for you, like playing the good guy or the bad guy?
Oh, a bad guy's a lot easier to play. I mean, and your size does help, especially for that roles. I mean, look for the Crazies, I was big redneck hunter. I mean, I'm a big
I just
redneck
love
with
that.
a mohawk.
As big as that movie was, and I still have the magazine of Fangoria. Is your character the full makeup is on there, and I was just like, this is just I mean, I say small character, but it's such an iconic, obviously, look. But it's just like that's just such an awesome thing to have. It's like to be that random guy from the movie that gets crazed and becomes like the zombie type creature. To be so iconic, that's rad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wish that movie would have done a lot better. We came out in between Shutter Island and then we did really well. Opening weekend, we did like 18 million. I was like, man, this is great.
It would have done better coming out of the pandemic because it kind of fits into like everything going crazy.
It would have. It's so close to what was going on. But then a week after us was Johnny Depp's Alice in Wonderland, so we kind of got stuck with everybody. Oh, Johnny Depp, but great movie. Obviously, getting the cover of Fangoria is a big deal. I mean, I grew up. I grew up being a horror movie guy. That's why I wanted to get into acting. I mean, The Night Gallery, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits. Any Romero film. I mean, Night of the Living Dead, 1967, and then Dawn of the Dead, which is my favorite movie. I mean, I always thought, I could be one of those guys. I want to be a zombie. I want to do this stuff. And then to actually be able to do that stuff just blows your mind. And then to get the cover of Fangoria magazine, but like a couple of my friends who've been on numerous covers, like it's the second one's the hardest. And I'm like, oh man, how am I going to get on now I got to get on Fangoria twice. Come on. This is just too much. But it's an honor and a blessing, but your size does help as far as, of course, for the more, I mean, I play a badass guy, right? That's a majority of what I do. And the size helps. And I'm real good with comedy too. So the size helps with being a large guy with comedy. I've done a lot of Disney, a lot of the kids' TV shows because they need a big, funny, loud, aggressive guy that understands comedy. And the pro wrestling really helped that. I mean, pro wrestling, doing 5 years of that really helped me not be afraid of going in a room and acting like a fool. Because, that's what we do out there. We're acting kind of foolish in the wrestling ring and outside trying to get, whether you're trying to get 1,000 people, 40 people or 1,000 people to boo you or cheer you. Now you translate that to going into a room with 5 or 6 producers I'm like, hell, that's nothing. I just got 12,000 people at the Shark Tank in San Jose to boo me. I mean, what's five guys in this room? So it's nothing. So yeah, the wrestling helps. The size helps, obviously, for some of the roles I get. So
The you talk about the comedy. I know 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I loved it, and I think what I love about it is it's so violent and brutal, but it's also got when you do that first kill with the sledgehammer, it's I laugh every time I watch it, even the first time I saw it because it's so brutal. Yet I sensed Leatherface was having fun with it. So maybe that's what you kind of talk about, where you kind of this vile monster dude that has a sense of humor when it comes to the killing. And I always found that kind of correlation to horror movies is super fascinating to me. Like these big brooded guys that have fun with killing, like James Drew Courtney in the last couple of Halloween movies. Like some of the kills are so violent, brutal, yet there's a very tongue-in-cheek, funny aspect about it that I just kind of love.
yeah, James is a great. He's good, man. People
Oh
think
yeah,
it's really easy to
put a
act under
mask
makeup,
on.
and it's a simple thing where you're just a robot, but it's not. It's so I got cast as Leatherface 2003. I did the first kill about a day and a half. I got hurt on the movie, so that's the first kill is my kill, and then they brought in another guy to finish out the movie. But I did think of a lot of you're doing what Gunnar Hansen did
Oh,
so well.
legendary.
So the pressure on me, and when I booked it, I had 2 months to think about it, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, well, you start thinking about it, you overthink it, you stress about it. How am I going to do anything close to what Gunnar Hansen did, or some of my other friends who R.A. Mihailoff and
Oh yeah.
some of these other guys, and Bill Johnson and Bob Elmore in part two. I'm like, I guess you got to figure out how to do it your own way. And I did really think that he enjoyed doing this. This is what he loved to do, and this is just that's his normal routine. This was fun for him. So I'm glad you saw that you could catch that. But yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to finish the whole movie and see what I could have put my twist on it. But Andrew, who replaced me, did a tremendous job, and that movie is probably the most brutal out of all of
Oh,
them
it's just, and I've had
that have ever
Andrew.
been out.
I recorded with Andrew, I think last year, a year before that. He was on the podcast, and he's funny. Like he talked about, like it's like how stuff in life is a lot of luck and right place at the right time. And here he was bummed that he missed out on the movie, but you unfortunately get hurt, and here he is in this role now. It's just like circumstances like that. Do you feel that's something that wasn't meant to be, or maybe now next time someone gets hurt, that they're gonna be like, "Fuck, we should have called Brett," and here you are running with this character again, or something like that, where it's like, because I'm always just like, there's a lot of what ifs, especially in your industry, entertainment, where it's like this person was casted, they got hurt, or they didn't want to do it, they turned it down, and a lot of
Yeah.
regret too. It's like, how do you kind of filter through all that? And just kind of like getting hurt would be, I'd be super pissed. Like, how do
Well,
you not, how do you not
I
let
was
that affect the rest of
depressed.
your career? Okay.
I mean, I got super depressed. In fact, I came home. I mean, that was the last time I cried, besides in my wedding a little bit. I might have cried at my wedding just a tiny bit. But yeah, I came home, had to get rid of every single thing in my house.
Oh,
I said Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Didn't want to see it. Didn't want to think about it. I mean, I was working a week later in a movie called Puerto Vallarta Squeeze in Mexico with Scott Glenn and Harvey Keitel. So,
yeah.
I mean, I got over it pretty quick in that sense because you just got to keep working. But and I never really even talked about the movie until a couple of the magazines over the last 5 or 6 years, kept saying, well, there was another guy in that movie that was cast first and then got hurt. So then I kind of embraced it, and you just come to grips with it. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's a part of history, right? At least I can say I was Leatherface for a week. In fact, I'm writing a book, Leatherface for a week, kind of probably be the working title. But it's just, you got to get over it. It's just like anything in life. You may, being a stockbroker, being a lawyer, being a cop, being a fire department. I mean, you're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have a bad day. And I just happened to have the bad day at the wrong part of the movie. Towards the end of the movie would have been a lot better to get heat stroke than, in a day and a half of filming. But I mean, you just get over it. Enough people love that kill in the beginning, and they give me props and go, wow, that was very brutal. And it was slamming that. I was in so much pain slamming. You have no idea how much pain I was in trying to slam that door, because when I got the heat stroke, I went outside, laid down, drank 7 Gatorades. I said, I think I'm good to go. Let's get back in there after a half hour. I mean, for God's sakes, I was Leatherface. I didn't want anything to happen. Wanted to finish this movie. It was a dream gig.
Oh yeah.
And then my muscles in my back, once you get heat stroke or heat exhaustion, your muscles tense up. And I knew that was, it. I had a few pain pills, took them. They put Eric Balfour. It's not that Eric Balfour is heavy. He's tall and lanky.
Yes.
Somebody had a skateboard in their car, and we put him on a skateboard, and I was dragging him that way. But slamming that door shut I can't even describe how painful it was.
Wow.
First of all, it was a giant, heavy door. It was a huge door. It was so perfect and so beautiful for that scene. And I don't even think you get the scope of it unless you're right there to see it. But I was in so much pain. And then, this is what people were like, well, I said, that's not the worst of it. The worst of it was leaving in the van with all the cast and then getting dropped off at the hospital.
Ugh.
That was bad, because then I'm like, holy crap. You're just going, what more could go bad? What's the worst thing that can happen in your career, in your life, wanting to be an actor, wanting to be a horror guy, a creature, do creature work. And then the worst thing happens. So, but, I mean, stuff like that happens in life. So you just got to keep moving on. I mean, I guess I could have I went back to work in the bars. I was working at the Jones Hollywood, which is a real popular restaurant bar in Hollywood across from the Formosa Cafe, and just went back to doing what I was doing and, kept acting. I've been acting ever since. And, maybe Michael Bay, I would love to apologize to him if I ever get to see him one of these days and say, I don't know if you remember me, but I want to apologize.
Yeah.
And his film company there. And I'm sure hopefully they don't hold a grudge after 20 years, but it's amazing that it's 20 years old, that movie,
Yeah. Is it
But
when it comes to like auditioning for a role like that, especially something that physical as the character of Leatherface, did you actually have to physically like move? Like, how did you prepare for that? Like watching the old stuff with Bob Elmore and Gunner and stuff like that, like, but also make it your own in 2023. So was it like you walk in the room like, okay, all of a sudden you're Leatherface, let's act through a kill scene?
So my thing, my auditions is legendary, and I'll tell you this, I don't talk about it very often, but they were going to hire a local hire in Texas to play this part. That's what I was reading. I was like, how dare they? I was so angry. They're going to find some bouncer in Texas. They're going to find some ex-Dallas football player who blew out his knee, not playing anymore, but he's a big 6'8" monster. I'm like, this is terrible. What a waste, because Leatherface just wasn't some big goon, and to hire some big goon to play him would have been just the worst thing in the world, in my opinion. So I saw one day, I went in for a commercial audition. I saw, there's 5 different rooms. It'll say Taco Bell, Miller. I think I was there for a Miller Lite commercial, Miller Lite. And then I saw TCM, and I'm like, it's got to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but they're not casting out here. They're casting in Texas. They cast their leads out here, but they, all the other stuff's going to be cast in Texas. So I called my commercial agent, commercial talent, Neil Kreppel, great guy. And I said, Neil, can you call that lady and ask her, that commercial casting director, and ask her what's going on? Is that for Texas Chainsaw Massacre? And if they haven't hired Leatherface, can I come be put on tape? And I had booked something with her before. And she called back and said, yes, send Brett in tomorrow. So I went to Salvation Army, bought some giant suit that was there. And I was big. I was 350 pounds at the time. I was very big. This thing didn't fit me well, but it looked good. I looked big, and I look like Gunnar Hansen, right? I look like a big, meaty son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And I get in there and I go in and she goes, what do you want to do? I said, just roll the cameras. And I'm in this thing and I said, Mr. Bay, I said, you do not want to waste this guy, this character on some local hire in Texas, for God's sakes. I was born to play this part. I said, you are doing a disservice to Gunnar Hansen and all the rest of the guys if you just hire some jabroni out in Texas to play this part. And what a waste it would be. And then there was a little girl working the camera, and I picked her up real quick and threw over my shoulder, and she squealed, what do you do? Put me down. And I turned around and said, I'll see you in Texas. And then I walked off camera, and she's like, and then, is that it? I said, that's it. And then we left, and the next day she called and said, Michael Bay thought you were funny. I said, you got the gig.
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, what? I mean, that doesn't happen very often, but I took a chance, and that chance paid off at least for 2 months and a week and a half.
Yeah, and I know we talked about like the being behind the makeup and mask and stuff, but both your really famous horror, that and the Crazies, the eyes, like they tell a story too. He's not just some hulking idiot,
Yeah.
dumbass character. Like there's a reason why he's doing this. You kind of see that almost like a sad dog that has been hit too many times type feeling. So it's awesome. Like using your eyes and stuff to hide behind a mask, yet portray a character that isn't just some dumb Hulk.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you go into a role and you look at it, look, this is just some dumb guy. There's always something more than just it being some dumb guy. Yeah, he could be slow. Yes, he could be this, but there's a reason he does things, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Leatherface, whether it's even when I got infected on the Crazies, there was I still had in the back of my mind, well, we're hunters. It's what we do. Doesn't matter. We're hunting. This is what we live for. We live to hunt, whether it's deer season or whether it's humans, whether it's Timothy Oliphant and his buddies. That's what we do. And the craziest thing about the Crazies was we had a scene, which is, I'm still mortified and so angry about it. We had a scene where I walk into the convenience store and they set it all up. And like at a 7-Eleven, all the doors were the cooler where all the
Yes.
drinks are. So I come in with a shotgun and I look, and they had set it all up where I'm going to hear something, and then they start running, and they're running through that thing, and I'm shooting the doors, wham, wham, as they're running by, and I'm shooting out all these doors, all the beer, all the stuff's exploding, and we never got to that part. And I was so excited for that thing, and I'm like, all right, cool, we're going to go shoot that now. They're like, we ran out of time. And I'm like, you set all the charges up. Everything's right. This would have been one of the great, for me at least, it would have been one of the crown jewels
Yeah.
in my acting and my career to have that on there.
Just a great sizzle reel. Yeah.
Oh my God, I was so ready for it. It would have been so cool. The doors exploding, the beer exploding, them running and just barely getting out of there. But, in the end, we had a really good fight scene, me and Timothy underneath that truck. And
Yeah.
I got lit on fire, got to do my first burn, in a movie. And the late, great Chris Carnell, who was a stuntman who passed away, My Bloody Valentine, he was in the 3D. He was the miner in that. And he was a very, very famous stuntman. And this is one of those things, too, where we could talk about it now. He's not here, and there's no one to get me in trouble or him in trouble. But they came up and they didn't really like my stunt guy. My guy was stunt doubling me. He was new, and he was a friend of mine too. He was a very accomplished actor, but he got into stunts. And they just weren't digging him. And they said, "You ever done a burn?" And I said, "Of course." And then, okay, we would like. And then they walked off. And then Chris comes to me and he goes, "You ever done a burn?" I said, "No." And he goes, he's like, "You're going to do a full burn
What?
here." And I'm like, and so he had probably 30 seconds to think about it. Either he goes and snitches on me, says we're going to have to get a stunt double to do it, or he goes, all right, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And he said, and I had been doing my fight scenes up to that point, and he was very complimentary of me, and he was like, "You're doing a really good job." And he said, all right, let me tell you what's going to happen, because the burn guy is going to be here in 15 minutes, the guy that's the expert on the burns, and he's going to. So he walked me through it. I did it. You never think that holding your breath for maybe 20 seconds, it's nothing. Right? We used to do it as kids underneath the pool. Let's see who can hold their breath the longest. I probably could do a minute and a half back in the day. But holding your breath when you're on fire is a whole different thing, right? You're like, holy crap, how long was that? That was 12 seconds. Oh my God, it seemed like 5 minutes. But yeah, Chris was a great guy, and he gave me that opportunity, and the other took a chance, and it paid off and did very well. And the movie was great. It is definitely one of those hidden gems that people you haven't seen. It's not what people say the crazy. That was Romero's thing. I said it's nothing like George's first movie, which was very political. And I said this is a good movie, great stunts, great makeup. Robert Hall, almost human, who passed away, who's was an incredible makeup artist and FX guy. Did the makeup with this guy Toby Sells out of Atlanta, and it was just and Timothy Oliphant and Rhoda Mitchell were great actors, and the story was solid, and the kills were great, and It's just a good movie. We were set up for a part two, and I kept telling Brett Eisner, our director, Michael Eisner's kid, and I said, Breck, in part two, you could have that truck and have me burnt in the back of it, all like tied up, and then have Timothy Oliphant come across me. Then one eye pops open, something cool, so I could get in the second part. But they, alas, never did part two. So
I know we kind of talked about your podcast and stuff, but like, where can people find it? Like, how do you film it? Like, when's it released and stuff like that?
So we do it, and we try to do once a week. It's if you go to Facebook or you go to Instagram, Doomsdays with an S Crypt.
Yep.
That's my buddy John. He does a lot of conventions. He's a very big horror guy, masks and the whole bit. And we go do a lot of conventions together, and he sets up tables and whatnot. But he finds a lot of these artists that not many people know, mask makers, artists. This guy Michael Toth, who does a lot of artwork for me out of Pennsylvania, because you can only sell so much of the pictures, right? I can sell pictures at a convention, but it's the artwork that someone can do the Leatherface, Lost Leatherface thing, which in their way, which is pretty cool, whether it's on Funko Pops or it's on, shirts or whatever it's on, bowling pins. We can do all that stuff. And we find all these artists and these guys, and we give them a little bit of a voice, and the new filmmakers, independent filmmakers, new directors, a lot of up and coming actors. And we sprinkle them in with some people that are seasoned actors, but it's called Shooting the Shiz with DK and the Schwag. But if you go look up Doomsday's Crypt on Facebook or YouTube, and we try to film once a week. It could be after a convention. It could be like, hey, I'm going to, it could be like, hey, you call me and say, hey, I want to do an hour tonight. And I'll go, yeah, let's do it. So
what's the
nothing set in stone.
How many Sledgehammers have you signed at a convention?
So that's great, right? So I found these guys in Arkansas at Scared City Productions, and I was at a deal one day, and he goes, I make these prop sledgehammers. And I was like, man, that could be cool, because people are bringing me sledgehammers to sign full, and I can't ship them, right? I mean, it's 40-pound sledgehammer, right? I couldn't ship like 20 or 30 of those things. Found these guys, I sometimes will bring 10 to 20 of these. I'll ship them to where I'm going. They're very light. They probably don't weigh more than, I don't know, a pound. So if that, and I sign a bunch, man. I've probably signed hundreds over the last couple, but it's a good gimmick. As we say in wrestling, it's something different. It's something, oh, hold on, stay right here. It's something you can hang up on your wall, and it's different than a picture.
It tells a story.
It tells, and people go, oh, what are you doing with a bloody sledgehammer up on your wall? Well, hold on, let me grab it right here.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so look at this thing, man. I mean, that looks like a full. Oh, there's some. That looks like that was what a full-size sledgehammer.
What's that made out of?
Well, this is real wood. It's just so light. And I don't know what the composite is that he uses for the.
God, that's genius.
For the actual sledgehammer, but that thing, people, I always tell them, how strong are you? Go grab that at the table, and these people are always like nervous to pick it up. And I said we only had to kill a few thousand armadillos to get that blood.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. It's something different, right? I mean, I signed chainsaws, but I didn't use a chainsaw in the movie. I didn't get to that far. But there's only two guys that really have used the sledgehammer. That's me and Gunnar Hansen. He used the shorter, his hammer that he used, his mallet.
Yep.
Mallet. So, and then which is great is I got to meet Gunnar at a convention with Dan Yeager, who was Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw 3D. And I got to go over and tell me he had no idea there was another guy that was in that movie that played Leatherface, and that I slammed the door and all that. He goes, I thought that was the other guy. In fact, I was arguing with the other guy about that. I said, no, that's me, and I would never argue with you about anything. He was so nice. He was so complimentary. He's like, that's great. That's you and me are the only two guys ever slammed that door. And I was like, wow, never thought about it that way. And I was like, well, I appreciate it. Made me feel better.
Yeah.
obviously about myself and my place in that little bit of history in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre history. And I said, well, I want to get a couple Funko Pops signed, and he wouldn't take my money. And I said, well, let me take the money. And he goes, if you make me take the money, then leave. And I didn't want to leave. So I said, all right, you don't have to take the money. And I got to sit down with him and watch him be gracious, for about an hour and a half. And he was such a great guy and such a nice man. And, it's amazing that this franchise, but if those guys would have never, Toby Hooper, Gunnar, and the rest of those folks wouldn't have done that movie and wouldn't have done it how well they did it. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary on it, how they shot it. It was just unbelievable and sure miserable for a lot of those folks shooting that thing. And if they wouldn't have done such a good job, there would be no franchise. It just would have been, well, just a horror movie that didn't make it. But it's such a scary movie.
And that franchise itself, it launched actors into like Matthew McConaughey, Bill Moseley, Jessica Biel with you. It's like, it's just crazy how those horror franchises. I love the movie Leprechaun, and I never realized until I was older that's Jennifer Aniston, or like Leonardo DiCaprio in like Critters 4, like all these obscure movies were just like, holy shit! Like actors were actors, and like they had to do these movies to get noticed. That's why I love the horror franchises, because it's just like all the actors I follow today all had a part of that, whether directing or acting or producing. It's great.
Oh, yeah, there's one of my favorite posters because Grizzly, which was a movie.
George Clooney.
Well, now he did Grizzly 2, which they never released. It's him, Charlie Sheen.
Who's the girl?
Who is it? Laura Dern. My wife is throwing. And Academy Award winner. Who's the Academy Award winner? Nurse Ratched. Louise Fletcher.
Yes, jeez.
Are you kidding me? But the only reason they released it part 2, they had to piece it together because they didn't have enough filmed. The only reason they released it is because it has George Clooney, Charlie Sheen, and Laura Dern for 5 minutes in it, or 3 minutes. That's the only reason it got released. And it is so bad. But as a horror movie guy, I had to watch it anyways.
Yeah, of course.
And Academy Award winner, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Louise Fletcher is the star of that thing. So I had to watch it. But I'm a poster guy. We have hundreds of horror movie posters, and we don't have a big enough house for them. And it costs so much to frame stuff nowadays that I just, every once in a while, I'll open up a bin and I'll, lovingly go through my posters and go, oh, look at the humanoids from the deep, and I just go. Oh.
It's always funny when you see like I love the movie The Howling, and so I have all like the posters. But then I was in Mexico City a couple years ago and going through like this open air market type thing, and I saw a Howling poster. But the way they interpreted the movie and the original poster, I'm like, it doesn't even look like a werewolf. But the fonts are all super rad and different. I'm like, it's just cool how creatively people can watch a movie and be like, this is what the poster is going to be in this country. It's fascinating.
I love there's nothing like, because there's you can't get original posters anymore from some movies. And if you do, with $1,000, people know that they're worth money, but you can get the Turkish edition. Yeah. From Turkey, the Howling 3 from Turkey. Go, wow, right. I'll take it. It looks good. It doesn't matter. Yeah, just a different artist, a different rendition of the poster.
Yeah.
I have an independent movie I filmed this year, which I'm real excited about. We can talk about because it's an independent, and it's awesome. Called Desert Fiends. And man, I'm real excited about this. It's going to be the grossest. I keep telling them, I say, you're going to have to get a little sticker and put it on the DVD. It says the grossest horror movie in 50 years or 30 or whatever, the grossest horror movie ever. But so it's all about special effects, not AI, because there's stuff that a guy can do with his hands, an FX guy, a makeup artist, that are and with an actor, that are far better than anything you can create on a computer. So real excited about that. And I might kill who do I kill? What's her name, babe? I'm asking my wife. Not Courtney. Who's the girl I kill in Desert Fiends? Scout Taylor Compton. I have to keep going. Wow. My wife in the background. So I may or may not kill Scout Taylor Compton in Desert Fiends.
That's awesome.
Shot pre-strike. And it's very fun. Sean C. Phillips, who's a up and coming director, he has a couple movies under his belt, but I think this is going to be the one that's going to set him over the top. So, yeah, look at I love the genre. I mean, would I like to be on I've done 3.5 Men. Would I have loved to have been on that TV show forever? Yes. What I've done an episode of Sons of Anarchy. Would I have loved to have been on that show for a couple years? Of course. But comedy and horror, man, I love it.
That's why I think with horror movies like Terrifier 1 and 2 recently, and films like that, they become like this, they pop culture phenom, but people go to theaters and just like have a good time drinking and eat popcorn, just laughing and being enthralled by these characters. It's like, it's only blending of genres, I think, that can have that way with people outside of like the big action spectacle franchises. People like myself, we see a movie like that comes out, even if it's a shitty, low budget, Lionsgate doesn't even want it type movie, we're going to the theater if it's playing and having a blast.
Yes. Yeah, listen, that's the whole thing. I want to be scared. I want to laugh, even if it's silliest thing in the world.
Yeah, I want to turn away and be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, now Terrifier 2, great guys, right?
Oh,
because I'm on the convention circuit, I get to see Damien Leone, the director, and
David's awesome.
David Howard Thornton have you had him on yet?
Yes, he's amazing.
He's so good, and it's good to see these guys who people go, oh, they just came out of nowhere. No.
He's been doing this stuff a while. Have you seen his Joker
they've
work?
Been doing it.
Yeah,
they've been doing it a long time and put in the work, and thank goodness things just meshed at the right time for these guys. And gosh, if I would have known how big Terrifier 2 and how good it would have been.
Oh.
And that was a crowd-funded, that was an Indiegogo crowd-funded movie. I would have been the first guy to go, here, take all my money, please. But Terrifier 3, I'm really excited for these guys. I mean, who knows? There might be 5 or 6 of these things, and I hope they get to ride it out. But I'm also interested to see what they do, aside from Terrifier, right? I mean,
correct.
Damien Leone he's a great director. He's got a great mind. He's an FX guy, right? That's how they obviously can keep the budgets down on their movies, because his company's doing all that good gross stuff that you see in the movies. And David Howard Thornton is such a nice guy. We just spent 4 days together at a convention, and I got to sit right next to him, which is great. And I love to sit next to guys like that and watch how they interact with the fans. And he's a wonderful. Bill Moseley's another guy.
Oh yeah.
You watch him, how he interacts. And I've learned so much from watching Bill Moseley, Doug Jones. If folks don't know Doug Jones, you should. He's one of the prolific creature work guys and a great actor and a funny guy. Doug the Hug, we call him, because he will hug. It could be 500 people in line. He will hug every single one of them. Now, I won't hug you, but I'll put my arm around you and give you a squeeze. But yeah, so it's a wonderful genre. I'm blessed that I can keep doing this. I'm blessed that folks sometimes want to, that I have a tiny bit of a name that I can get into a horror movie and, do well. So.
No, I love it. Before I let you go, Brett, like if people want to find you on social media and stuff, like I know you have a website, Big Schwag, but what Instagram, Facebook, like where do you want people to check you out if they want to see what you're up to?
Yeah, I got the Lost Leatherface on Facebook. Or The Big Schwag on Facebook, and The Big Schwag, SCHWAG on Instagram. I love Instagram. I never did like it, but it's a hell of a way to advertise. Yes. And they got great stuff. So Facebook or Instagram, come find me. And yeah, man, thanks a lot. You reached out. I remember I'm like, honey, I don't know who this guy is, but it looks like he interviews some really important people, and I don't know what the hell he wants to do.
It's funny because me and Lee, when I recorded with Lee last year, like we hit it off, and like he, outside of what he's did with stunt and acting, like his career is fascinating. And I saw a picture of you and him, kind of like a video interacting like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that guy looks super familiar, but like I'm not familiar with the name. And then obviously once I saw the Crazies, like, oh shit, I know who this is. And yeah, that's why I reached out, because I think for me, would I love to have like the Robert Englund's, I mean, I've had the Kane Hodder type people, but like you think of these people that they traditionally think are like the big stars of horror or action. Yeah, I love them, but I love talking to the stuntmen and women or the Tom Savini's, like the makeup people, or like these people that are like a huge part of making these iconic characters and portrayals so legendary. That's where those are the stories. Like the stories Lee can tell me of like the stunt work and them goofing off on Scream sets or Predator movies. I wish there's more podcasts of gentlemen like yourselves just talking about that, because it's like it's very cathartic, but also like very healing for me. So I'm just like, I love it.
Yeah, here's one last thing for you. So on the Crazy, since you like the movies, we'd be in that makeup for sometimes 10 hours. And you got a guy that comes around and gets like $50 an hour to every 10 minutes to come drop eye drops in your eye. I'm like, how much you get? I'm like, I'm in the wrong gig. I need to be able to do this where we're dropping the eye drops in. But we're in Lenox, Iowa, a small town. It's like a block and a half long, and we rented out the whole town for a week to film part of the Crazies there. And the only place that wouldn't close was the bar. So I'm in makeup for 10 hours. One of my actors is with me. I'm like, man, let's go get a beer. And he goes, we can't do that. I'm like, and I tell the second idea, so I'm going in there to get a beer. He's like, you're going to get me fired. I said, my phone's on. Just text me if they're looking for us. We'll come right out. Bar's packed, 40 people in there, right? We walk in, and then you've seen the makeup.
Oh, yeah.
The cover of the Crazies. That's how I walked in this bar. Everybody looked up for a second, then went back to what they were doing. The bartender said, what do you need? I said, I need 2 Budweisers. Grabbed those Budweisers, sat at the bar in full makeup, drank them. I said, okay, let's go out. And then we went back out. They called me like 15 minutes later. All right, let's go. Let's get this scene done. But I mean, that's fun stuff. Yeah, Lee is a great guy. Been in this business so long doing the stunts and all this crazy stuff. And great guy. And I love palling around with him. We were in Denver last week, and we will be in Hampton, Virginia, the 16th and the 17th, Haunted Screams Expo together. And we have a good time. He's a great guy. He's not a guy that goes out. We're not kids, right? And we don't go out and let's go to the bar. Let's go to the bar scene now. We don't do that. We're both married. We love to go out there, say hello, as he says, kissing posters, signing babies, and just have a good time. And and we're fans of the genre. So I get to see people, the David Howard Thorntons, and I get to go up and say, I'm really a big fan and BS with those guys. And so for me, the conventions it's like very cool. It's all like seeing your family, you know?
Well, Brett, this has been awesome. Thank you for doing this. And
thank you, buddy.
We'll have to do it again soon. Maybe I'll get you on here with Lee. We just really dig deep in the weeds.
What state are you in?
Massachusetts. Massachusetts.
I'm going to be in Taunton,
Mass.
Mass. I don't know how far you are from there, but I'm going to be there October 14th, 15th, 16th weekend. Monster Expo. So if you got a chance, come down. I'll put you on the guest list. Or I got to fly through Boston, so maybe we can enjoy a tasty beverage or something on the way in or the way out.
Buy some Sledgehammers at Home Depot and hit it up.
Let's go. Come on.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, buddy. Thank you, bro.
Oh, hello. I'm just enjoying this nice fucking candle. Anyways, I'm John, the host of Spear Talk, and I want to talk to you about nice fucking candles. We are lucky to have Nice Fucking Candles as a sponsor of the podcast, and if you use code SpearTalk15, you get 15% off your first order, or use the affiliate link below to always get your candle needs through Nice Fucking Candles. Nice Fucking Candles are 100% soy wax. They have a 65-hour burn time, maybe more if you nurse the flame a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not an expert on flames or candles, but I will say these things burn a long fucking time. You ask me about the wick. It's a double wick for even burning, which is amazing. And they come with 3 incredible flavors. I'm not sure if you're going to be eating these candles, but if you do like them, the scents are eucalyptus and ginseng, tobacco and fireside, and seaside and driftwood. Once again, Nice Fucking Candles. They are the candle company for Spear Talk. And if you love candles and need a good scent to clear out your office, your room, your podcast room, your weight room, your whatever you're doing in a room that smells like crap, use this candle. It's amazing. Thank you. Check them out. Love Nice Fucking Candles.